Russia-Ukraine war latest updates. There has been a brief cessation in fighting as Russia and Ukraine take stock of their options in the coming winter. Ukraine, flush from its victory in retaking the strategically significant southern port city of Kherson, has had to pause as troops are rested and re-equipped. Kyiv's options are recently limited for combat operations as the Dnieper River creates a natural barrier that will need notable effort and planning if it is to capture and hold a bridgehead while troops and vehicles are brought over in the kinds of numbers required for offensive operations against Russian units, which are dug in near the river. Russia has leveraged its skilled Wagner mercenaries in the northeast, and fighting has escalated, centered around the town of Bakhmut. Ukrainian troops have been dispatched to this sector to bolster the defenses to halt Russia's slow advance. Sub-zero warfare. As temperatures gradually sink, the nature of the fighting will change sharply. Both militaries are instructed and trained to fight in the cold. Indeed, Russia invaded and Ukraine fought back during one of the coldest months in 2022, February. But Kyiv has got far better winter clothing and equipment from NATO militaries. On the day of the invasion in Kyiv, the temperature was around 3 degrees Celsius, 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, it is 1 Celsius, 33.8 Fahrenheit. The alterations to fighting in sub-zero temperatures are important. With lesser daylight hours, whichever army is more experienced at night fighting will have the advantage. Night vision goggles and thermal imagers have been at the top of the list of the equipment requested by Ukraine from the West. The chances of survival in the golden hour, the critical 60 minutes after a battlefield wound, advance if soldiers are treated or moved to a first aid station, and plunge if they are met with harsh weather. In the cold, equipment is more likely to malfunction. Weapons jam as the cold temperatures freeze vital parts. Tanks fare better once the ground hardens, but defensive positions are much tougher to dig as the ground freezes solid, making artillery barrages all the more fatal. And it is, of course, not just the military that will have to compete with changing conditions. The civilian population of Ukraine has been noted by Russia for collective suffering as leverage. Here's the latest developments on the war and its impact across the globe. Advanced analysis work is still in progress over the investigation into the Nord Stream pipelines that have been subjected to gross sabotage, Sweden's security service stated. The agency added in a statement that the investigation is large and complex and will in the end indicate whether anyone can be suspected of and later prosecuted for this. The crime of gross sabotage carries a more critical sentence than ordinary sabotage under Swedish law. Russia is thinking of a positive result for its imprisoned national Viktor Bout in any exchange with the United States, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said Friday, according to state media. Viktor Bout is among those who are being discussed, and we certainly count on a positive result, he stated. There is a prediction that Bout, an infamous arms dealer imprisoned in the United States, could be part of a prisoner swap to secure the release by Russia of WNBA star Brittany Griner and security consultant Paul Whelan. Fortification work is being finalized in Crimea to guarantee the safety of its inhabitants, stated the Russian head of Crimea's administration, Sergei Aksyonov, on Friday. What type of work is underway is unclear, but Britain's defense ministry said individually that Russian units have constructed new trench systems near the border of Crimea, as well as near the Seversky Donets River between Donetsk and Luhansk. Some of these locations are up to 60 kilometers, 37 miles, behind the current front line, indicating that Russian planners are making preparations in case of further major Ukrainian breakthroughs, the ministry said Friday. A Dutch court in Absentia found guilty 2 Russians and a Ukrainian separatist of murder in the shooting down of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17, which was hit by a missile over eastern Ukraine in 2014, murdering all 298 passengers and crew. The conviction Thursday incriminates Russia's government, which refuses any involvement and has denied to extradite the defendants or cooperate with investigators. The Kremlin asserted Friday that Moscow had faced exclusion from the proceedings and doubted the objectivity of the investigation. The defendants remain at large. Russia is likely to redeploy troops from Kherson to Donetsk, Britain's defense ministry stated. The movement of Russia's forces from Kherson will point to reinforce and expand its offensive operations near the town of Bakhmut and Donetsk, it stated Friday. Russian strikes hit critical infrastructure in Kharkiv on Friday, according to regional governor Oleg Syniehubov. There is damage to gas industry equipment in the Izium district, he said on Telegram, and at least 8 people were reported injured. In Donetsk, Officials reported isolated shelling overnight, but without civilian casualties. The Washington Post could not exactly verify the reports. Russian shelling murdered at least 9 people and destroyed a residential building in Zaporizhia, according to Ukraine's emergency services on Friday. Rescue operations are still underway, a day after the area was hit by Russian rockets, the services stated. President Zelensky warned that the number of victims may increase because rubble is still being cleared. Pope Francis stated that the Vatican is ready to help mediate a halt to the war. Everyone must commit to demilitarizing hearts, starting with their own. We must all be pacifists, the pontiff told Italy's La Stampa newspaper in an interview Friday. He called on leaders in Kyiv and Moscow not to give up on dialogue. The European Union's top diplomat stated Russia did not seem ready to withdraw its troops from Ukraine, making it impossible to seek a peace deal. It is Russia who has to make peace possible. The aggressor has to withdraw if he wants a sustainable peace, Joseph Borrell told Reuters in Uzbekistan. The Kremlin has ruled out a summit between President Vladimir Putin and President Biden, spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters Friday. A summit is not being discussed at this point, he stated. For now, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov told state media there is simply nothing to talk about Ukraine with them, the Americans. Asia-Pacific leaders at the Bangkok summit seriously condemned the Ukraine war. The Asia-Pacific Economic Corporation (APEC) summit issued a joint statement Friday from the attending ministers stating that many members condemned the war but acknowledging there were other views and different assessments of the situation and sanctions. The statement added that APEC was not the forum in which to settle security disputes. Russia, the aggressor in the Ukraine war, and China, which has good ties with Russia, are APEC members. Russians fleeing the Ukraine war have tried to have success in Dubai. The cosmopolitan emirate in the oil-rich United Arab Emirates has long positioned itself as a haven for global wealth and finance. Now, the UAE's decision not to join Western sanctions against Russia over its occupation of Ukraine has created Dubai a new hub for fortune-seeking Russians who see much of the rest of the world closed to them, writes Brian Rohan for The Washington Post. Many are opting for Dubai for its high living standards, low taxes, and easy visa requirements, telling the Post they don't face Russophobia as they do elsewhere. I see no reason to defend my homeland when no one attacked it, stated one immigrant, Sergei Tulinov, 35, a tattoo artist from Kaliningrad who sold his business and moved to Dubai soon after Russia announced a partial military mobilization in September. According to the property brokerage Better Homes, Russians were the biggest sole group of non-resident buyers from July to September this year.